My mother-in-law overheard that I got a promotion and told everyone at my party that I slept my way up. She laughed loudly and said, "Well, we all know how she got there." I stood there mortified as my boss walked in behind her, his face like stone. "You're overreacting," Dylan said, scrubbing a hand through his hair as he paced across our bedroom. I stared at him, feeling like I was looking at a stranger. Overreacting? My voice broke, thick with disbelief. She accused me of sleeping with my boss. In front of my coworkers. In front of him. He stopped pacing. Met my eyes. She was just joking, Jenna. She didn't mean any harm. I laughed then, a small, bitter sound. I realized something in that moment. It wasn't just Cynthia who didn't respect me. Dylan didn't either. When Dylan suggested throwing a party to celebrate my promotion, I was reluctant. It wasn't that I didn't want to celebrate. Being promoted to VP of Operations at my firm in Ann Arbor was the biggest professional achievement of my life, but I knew what it meant. It meant inviting Dylan's mother. And Cynthia had made no secret over the years of how she felt about me. From the first day we met, she'd decided I wasn't good enough. I didn't come from a wealthy family. I didn't wear the right brands. I worked too much. I wasn't deferential enough. Whatever imagined standards she held, I never met them, and I stopped trying years ago. But Dylan insisted. "She's still family," he said. "It would look bad to leave her out." So I caved. Like I always did. We strung up fairy lights in the backyard. Rented tables and chairs. Set up a buffet with catering from a local place everyone liked. I spent the morning anxiously arranging flower centerpieces and making sure everything was perfect, even though part of me knew nothing would be. By late afternoon, the guests started to trickle in. My coworkers, smiling and easygoing. A few friends from college. Dylan's extended family. Our neighbors from 2 doors down. And then Cynthia arrived. She was wearing a loud pink floral dress and enough perfume to gag a horse. Her lipstick was too bright, her smile too sharp. She made a dramatic entrance, kissing the air near my cheeks, waving grandly to the crowd like a queen surveying her subjects. I bit back my irritation. It was one night. I could survive one night. The first warning sign came early. I overheard her whispering to one of Dylan's aunts, her voice carrying farther than she realized. Something about these career women thinking they're so special. I gritted my teeth and moved on, trying to enjoy myself. The party buzzed with energy. People congratulated me, asked about the promotion, wanted to hear about the new office downtown. For a while, I even started to relax. Until I heard the laughter. Cynthia was at the center of a small crowd near the drinks table, her glass raised high. Her voice, too loud, too shrill, sliced through the gentle background music. "Well, we all know how Jenna got that promotion," she crowed, winking exaggeratedly. "It's not about hard work, that's for sure." There was an awkward titter of laughter. Someone tried to shush her, but she was in her element now, tipsy and vindictive. "Come on. You know how these things go. Little assistance for the boss, if you know what I mean." She pantomimed a vulgar gesture and laughed even harder. The words hit me like a slap. I turned, horrified, just in time to see a figure stepping through the open gate behind her. Mr. Hawthorne. My boss. He heard every word. His face was unreadable, but the muscle ticking in his jaw gave him away. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. The air seemed to thicken with shame. Cynthia, oblivious, waved her glass toward him. "You must be the lucky guy," she chirped, laughing uproariously. Mr. Hawthorne looked at me. His eyes were cold, furious. "Congratulations, Jenna," he said stiffly. He handed me a small envelope, a card, probably, then turned and walked straight back out the gate. No goodbye. No handshake. Just cold, cutting humiliation. I stood there, frozen, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. Cynthia shrugged and took a sip of her drink. "Geez, lighten up," she said to no one in particular. It was just a joke. I don't remember going inside. I only remember sitting on the floor of our downstairs bathroom, knees pulled to my chest, hearing the muffled chaos outside. Dylan knocked after a while. "Come on, Jenna, open the door." I didn't move. "I kicked her out," he said. "Okay? She's gone." I opened the door eventually, but the damage was done. The party was a wreck. Half the guests had left. Penny gave me a look full of sympathy and quietly helped me clean up the mess of plates and napkins littering the tables. That night, I barely slept. In the morning, the consequences started rolling in. First, a terse email from Mr. Hawthorne, meeting. Monday morning. First thing. Then Penny called me, her voice urgent. "Jenna, someone posted a video." Of her. Of what she said. My stomach dropped. One of Dylan's idiot cousins had filmed Cynthia's drunken speech. It was already circulating in the local gossip groups on Facebook. Even some coworkers had seen it. The shame was suffocating. Monday came faster than I was ready for. Mr. Hawthorne's office was chilly and impersonal. He got straight to the point. "Your work speaks for itself, Jenna," he said, voice clipped. "But public perception matters. Clean this up." He laid it out for me: no more mixing professional life with personal disasters. Distance myself from the toxic elements of my personal life. Or risk stalling, or even ending, my upward climb. I nodded, barely able to hold back tears until I got to my car. When I got home, Dylan was waiting. "How bad was it?" he asked. I told him. He hugged me, murmuring apologies, but I stood there, stiff in his arms, feeling nothing but hollow anger. Later that night, I tried to explain how serious this was, how close I had come to losing everything I had worked for. And he said the words that finally shattered whatever was left of us. "She didn't mean any harm. You're overreacting." I stared at Dylan after he said it, waiting for him to realize what had come out of his mouth. He didn't. Instead, he turned away, pulling his shirt over his head like we were just going to move on with our night, like my world hadn't been ripped apart hours earlier. I sat down heavily at the edge of the bed, feeling the fight drain out of me. Maybe he couldn't see it. Maybe he didn't want to. We barely spoke for the rest of the night. The next few days were a blur. At work, I kept my head down, focused on projects, determined to prove that no stupid rumor could touch me. Still, I could feel the shift in the air. Some coworkers, especially a few men I had never particularly liked, whispered when they thought I wasn't looking. Meetings were colder. Jokes that once would have included me now happened in side conversations I wasn't invited to. It was exactly the kind of damage that couldn't be undone with a simple denial. Every night when I came home, Dylan would ask how my day was in a way that sounded more like obligation than genuine interest. He never once brought up what had happened. Never once apologized for minimizing it. He acted like if we just ignored it long enough, it would go away. I started coming home later. Staying longer at the office. Pretending I was busy even when I wasn't, just to avoid the heavy, suffocating silence that had crept into our home. One night, a week after the party, I found myself driving aimlessly through downtown Ann Arbor after work instead of going home. The shops were starting to close. The lights from the coffee shops and bookstores spilled warm glows onto the sidewalk. I parked outside one of my favorite spots, a little cafe I used to visit back in college, and went inside. I ordered a coffee I didn't need and sat by the window, staring out at the street, feeling like a ghost drifting through a life I didn't recognize anymore. My phone buzzed on the table. "Dylan, you coming home soon?" I stared at the message, feeling a strange hollowness inside me. I didn't answer. I just turned the phone face down. I knew, sitting there, that things weren't fixable. Not because of Cynthia. Not even because of what she said. It was because when everything came crashing down, Dylan didn't choose me. He chose the easier path. The one that didn't involve standing up to his mother. The one that didn't involve acknowledging how badly I'd been hurt. He chose comfort over courage. A few days later, I sat down with Penny at a little Mexican restaurant near the campus. She listened quietly while I unloaded everything. The party. Cynthia. The humiliation. Dylan's reaction, or lack of one. When I finally trailed off, Penny stirred her margarita thoughtfully and said, "You know, it's not about what Cynthia did. It's about what Dylan didn't do." I nodded, biting my lip. "He was supposed to be your safe place," she said. "Not another person you had to defend yourself from." Hearing her say it out loud hurt more than I expected. But it also felt like a kind of permission, like I wasn't crazy for feeling betrayed. After we ate, I sat in my car for a long time, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the dashboard. Thinking about every time I'd bent over backward to make things easier. Every time I'd swallowed hurt feelings for the sake of keeping the peace. How much I had given. And how little I had gotten back. The tension at home kept simmering under the surface. One night, Dylan finally snapped. "You've been acting cold for weeks," he said, throwing his keys down on the counter. "Are you seriously still mad?" I stared at him. "Do you really think it's about being mad?" He crossed his arms. "Then what is it, Jenna?" "Huh?" She made a stupid joke. "It's over. You're punishing me for something I didn't even do." The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "You didn't protect me. You didn't stand up for me. You let her humiliate me and then you told me I was overreacting." He opened his mouth to argue, but I held up a hand. I was tired. Bone-deep tired. "I'm not doing this anymore," I said quietly. For once, he looked genuinely scared. "Wait. What are you saying?" I picked up my bag from the kitchen chair. The one I had packed earlier that day, before he got home. "I'm saying I need time to think," I said. "Away from you. Away from all of this." He stood frozen as I walked past him, out the door, into the cool evening air. I didn't look back. I checked into a cheap hotel a few blocks from my office that night. The room was small and smelled faintly of bleach, but it was mine. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night without waking up choking on anxiety. The next morning, I sat by the window with a lukewarm coffee in my hands, staring out at the skyline, feeling both terrified and liberated. I didn't know what came next. But I knew one thing for certain: I couldn't go back to who I was before. I couldn't go back to a marriage where my voice didn't matter. And Dylan, he wasn't the man I thought I had married. The days after I left passed in a strange blur. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that I needed time to think. But deep down, I knew that once I had crossed the line of walking out, something fundamental had shifted inside me. Something I couldn't walk back. At work, I threw myself into projects, staying late in the office, volunteering for more responsibility, anything to keep my mind busy. At night, I sat in the cramped hotel room, staring at the ceiling, trying to imagine what my life would look like without Dylan in it. It wasn't just about Cynthia anymore. It wasn't even just about the party. It was about years of little things piling up, the times he hadn't backed me up, the moments he chose the easy way out, the subtle ways he made me feel like I was asking for too much by simply expecting to be treated with respect. And now, sitting alone in a bland beige room with peeling wallpaper, I realized, maybe I hadn't been asking for too much. Maybe I had been asking the wrong person. After 4 days, Dylan started calling more persistently. The first time, I ignored it. The second, I silenced the phone. By the third call, guilt gnawed at me, and I answered. His voice was tight, frustrated. "Jenna, we can't just live like this. You're my wife. You can't just run away every time things get hard." I closed my eyes, feeling the sting of those words. He still didn't get it. "I needed space," I said quietly. "And you needed to realize that hard isn't your mother saying something stupid. Hard is rebuilding your reputation after someone tries to destroy it." He didn't respond right away. I could hear him breathing, hear the faint background sounds of our too quiet house. Finally, he said, I don't know what you want from me. I wanted you to stand up for me, I whispered. I hung up before he could say anything else. That night, lying on the stiff hotel bed, I opened my laptop and started looking at apartments. Just looking, I told myself. Nothing serious. Nothing final. I found one not too far from the office, a little one-bedroom in an older brick building downtown, walking distance to cafes and the library. Tiny. Old-fashioned. But it had big windows and hardwood floors and something else that tugged at me, possibility. I bookmarked the listing and closed the laptop, heart racing. The next day, Dylan texted me. Dylan, let's talk. Please. For a few minutes, I stared at the message, weighing it. Then, almost mechanically, I replied. Me, tomorrow night. We agreed to meet at home, not a public place where we would have to fake civility, not the hotel lobby where everything would feel too exposed. Just us. One last conversation, maybe. One last chance. When I walked into the house the next evening, it felt foreign, like stepping into someone else's life. The lights were low. The kitchen smelled faintly of takeout Dylan had probably abandoned on the counter. The living room was neat, but there was a strange emptiness to it, like the house itself knew what was coming. Dylan was sitting on the couch, his hands clasped tightly between his knees. He stood up when he saw me, looking desperate and defensive all at once. Jenna, he started, but I held up a hand. Let me talk first, I said. He sat back down heavily. I stayed standing, needing the space between us. I don't think you understand how much damage that night did, I said slowly, carefully. Not just to my career. To me. To us. He shook his head, frustrated. I've apologized 100 times. You've explained 100 times, I corrected. You've excused it. Rationalized it. But you never once really owned it. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. I spent years working my dimwit off to build a career where people take me seriously, I said, my voice rising despite myself. And in one night, your mother tried to tear it down. And you, the person who's supposed to be on my side, told me I was making a big deal out of nothing. He shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't nothing. I didn't know what to do. You could have started by believing me when I told you it mattered, I said. The silence between us stretched, heavy and suffocating. I never wanted to hurt you, he said finally, voice rough. I know, I said, surprising both of us. But you did. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling so tired. Tired of explaining. Tired of justifying why my pain deserved to be acknowledged. I don't know if I can come back from this, I said softly. Dylan's face crumpled. He stood up, reaching for me, but I stepped back. I need more than good intentions, I said. I need to be with someone who actually shows up for me. He didn't argue. For once, he seemed to understand that words weren't enough anymore. Later that night, lying awake in the guest room, because I couldn't bring myself to sleep in our bed, I thought about the apartment listing again. About starting over. Not out of spite. Not even out of anger anymore. Out of self-preservation. Out of the deep, stubborn knowledge that if I stayed, if I kept making myself small to fit inside the life Dylan wanted, there would be nothing left of me. The next morning, I scheduled a tour for the apartment. It was a small unit on the 3rd floor, nothing fancy. The building was old, with creaky stairs and scuffed baseboards, but when the landlord unlocked the door and let me step inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: relief. Freedom. The place was bright and quiet, with big windows facing out over a row of maple trees. There was a tiny kitchen, a living room just big enough for a couch and a bookshelf, and a bedroom where, for the first time in a long time, I could imagine sleeping peacefully. I signed the paperwork on the spot. It felt terrifying and exhilarating all at once, like leaping off a cliff and realizing halfway down that you've grown wings. That night, when I got back to the house, Dylan was waiting in the kitchen. There were candles on the table. My favorite wine. He'd even tried to cook, the burnt smell lingering in the air told me how that went. He looked up as I came in, nervous and hopeful. I made dinner, he said. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door. I already ate, I said, even though I hadn't. The hope drained from his face. I thought maybe we could have a fresh start, he said. Talk things through. Fix this. I walked past him, my hands trembling slightly. I'm moving out, I said. He blinked. Wait, you already found a place? I nodded. He opened and closed his mouth like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. Maybe he finally understood that it was too late. I'll give you some time to figure out your next steps, I said. I'll be staying at the hotel until the lease starts next week. He leaned heavily against the counter, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. The week leading up to the move was a blur. I packed the essentials quietly, methodically, while Dylan either stayed out late or hid in the basement. We barely spoke. It was strange how easily the life we had built together could be dismantled in cardboard boxes and silence. Cynthia called once. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice sharp and agitated. You're tearing this family apart. All because you can't take a joke. I deleted it without listening to the rest. When moving day came, Penny showed up with a rented van and a big cup of coffee. Ready to start your new life? She asked, grinning. I smiled back, feeling something inside me loosen, uncoil. Maybe I was ready after all. First, I changed my relationship status on social media. From married to nothing at all. I didn't announce it. I didn't make a scene. I just let people notice. The whispers started immediately among Dylan's family and our old mutual friends. Cynthia, desperate to control the narrative, tried to paint me as unstable, ungrateful, disloyal. But it didn't work. Because the video of her drunken tirade from the party, the one her own nephew had filmed, was still floating around the local social circles. And every time she opened her mouth to badmouth me, someone would quietly mention it. Wasn't she the one who humiliated her daughter-in-law at her own promotion party? Didn't she ruin Jenna's big career moment? Cynthia's social standing at her precious country club started slipping. Invitations dried up. Her bridge group forgot to include her. Even some of her longtime friends distanced themselves. I didn't have to lift a finger. At work, things got better, too. Mr. Hawthorne called me into his office 2 weeks after the move. He gestured for me to sit, his expression uncharacteristically warm. I want to apologize again, he said. You handled yourself with more professionalism than anyone could expect. I nodded, keeping my face composed. He smiled faintly. And, unofficially, we're putting your name forward for a regional leadership training program. It's a fast track to executive management. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. He chuckled. I know. A month after I moved out, I bumped into Dylan at the farmer's market downtown. He looked rough, unshaven, slumped shoulders, wandering aimlessly among the stands. When he spotted me, his face lit up like a man seeing water in the desert. Jenna, he said, rushing toward me. Can we talk? I shook my head gently. There's nothing left to say. He tried again, desperate. I've changed. I see it now. I see what I did wrong. I believed him. I believed that he had finally realized what he lost. But it didn't matter anymore. Some lessons come too late. I gave him a small, polite smile and walked away, the sun warm on my face, the bustle of the market buzzing around me, life moving forward. Without him. Now, months later, I'm fully settled into my little apartment. My career is better than ever. I travel for work. I've made new friends. I wake up every morning to sunlight streaming through the windows, a cup of coffee in hand, peace in my heart. No more tiptoeing around Cynthia's insults. No more shrinking myself to keep the peace. No more explaining why my ambitions, and my dignity, mattered. I didn't burn everything down. I didn't scream or seek revenge in cruel ways. I simply left. And I let them destroy themselves. And that, in the end, was the most satisfying revenge of all.